A seismic shift is threatening the American automotive industry, sending shockwaves through factories, towns, and families across the country. What was once a symbol of American strength and ingenuity now faces an uncertain future, as the very foundation of this vital sector is shaken. Hundreds of thousands of jobs, careers built over decades, are suddenly at risk, leaving workers and their loved ones anxiously wondering what tomorrow will bring. The cause? A sweeping new 25% tariff on imported cars and auto parts, imposed by the Trump administration in early 2025. This policy was intended to protect American manufacturers, but its consequences are rippling far beyond the boardrooms of Detroit. Now, global giants like Toyota and Honda are being forced to consider closing their U.S. manufacturing plants, a drastic move that could jeopardize the livelihoods of 840,000 Americans, from engineers to cafeteria staff. These aren't just statistics. Each job represents a real person, a family, and a community that depends on the steady hum of these factories for their way of life. In towns where these plants are the economic backbone, the anxiety is palpable. Local businesses, schools, and even hospitals feel the ripple effects of every threatened job. The tariffs have shattered the financial models that made U.S. production viable. Every imported engine and component now faces a heavy tax, making it nearly impossible for companies to keep costs down and doors open. Toyota and Honda are left with impossible choices: absorb massive losses, raise prices for American consumers, or shut down operations entirely, each option carrying its own devastating consequences. The debate over protectionist trade policies has never been more urgent. As workers rally and communities voice their fears, the fate of nearly 1 million jobs hangs in the balance, demanding attention from leaders and citizens alike. This story is about more than just cars or corporate profits. It's about the stability of American communities, the dignity of work, and the future of the nation's workforce. The choices made now will echo for generations to come. Toyota and Honda are deeply woven into the fabric of American manufacturing. Together, they operate 18 major plants across 13 states, directly employing over 55,000 Americans. These aren't just jobs, they're skilled careers in engineering, robotics, and logistics, supporting entire communities. Toyota's new North Carolina plant alone will employ over 5,000 people. In 2024, the two companies sold over 3 million vehicles in the U.S., many built by American hands. Their presence has driven innovation, set industry standards, and provided a pathway to the middle class for thousands. These companies sponsor local events, support charities, and are part of the social fabric. The threat of their departure isn't just economic, it's personal for the communities that have grown around them. Losing Toyota and Honda would unravel decades of partnership and prosperity. The 25% tariff is a deliberate move to reshape the U.S. auto industry. The administration argues it's a response to decades of unfair trade practices that have weakened American manufacturing. The goal forces automakers to bring high-value jobs, especially powertrain manufacturing, back to the U.S. Powertrain jobs pay significantly more than assembly work, and the hope is tariffs will make domestic investment unavoidable. Currently, only about half the content in U.S.-assembled vehicles is American-made. The policy aims to reverse this, boosting domestic production and creating better jobs. Supporters see it as a necessary correction. Critics warn it could backfire. The vision: a revitalized industry with critical components made in America. The new tariffs have upended Toyota and Honda's U.S. business model, which relies on global supply chains. High-value parts like engines and transmissions are mostly imported, now at a steep cost. Absorbing the tariffs would destroy profits. Passing costs to consumers would make their cars uncompetitive. The only remaining option may be to close U.S. factories and import finished vehicles instead. Building new U.S. powertrain plants would take years and billions in investment. An immediate fix isn't possible. The threat of closure is real, not a bluff. The government hopes tariffs will force new investment, but the risk is a rapid retreat instead. The stakes: the survival of Toyota and Honda's American operations. The entire manufacturing ecosystem is now in jeopardy. The loss of 840,000 jobs would ripple far beyond the factory floor, sending shockwaves through entire communities and industries. First, over 55,000 direct employees at Toyota and Honda plants would be out of work, losing not just their paychecks, but also their sense of stability and purpose. Next, the supply chain. 10,000 jobs making everything from tires to glass would collapse as orders dry up, affecting thousands of suppliers and small manufacturers who depend on these contracts to survive. Local businesses, from restaurants and grocery stores to real estate agents and daycare centers, would suffer as workers lose income and cut back on spending, leading to a sharp decline in local commerce. This multiplier effect means each lost factory job threatens several more in the community, as the loss of spending power ripples outward, impacting everyone from shop owners to service providers. Induced job losses would devastate local economies, forcing businesses to close, slashing public revenues, and even reducing funding for schools, hospitals, and essential services. The figure of 840,000 at-risk jobs includes direct layoffs, supply chain disruptions, and the broader community impacts that follow, touching nearly every aspect of daily life. A shutdown would silence not just factories, but entire towns, leaving neighborhoods eerily quiet and main streets deserted. The interconnected nature of modern industry means the fallout would be swift and severe, with effects spreading rapidly across regions and sectors. The economic shockwaves would be felt nationwide, touching families, businesses, and communities in every corner of the country. Small towns and rural counties would bear the brunt of plant closures. In places like Georgetown, Kentucky, and Decatur County, Indiana, auto plants are the main economic engine. A shutdown would send local unemployment rates soaring, gutting household incomes overnight. Tax revenues that fund schools, police, and fire departments would vanish, crippling public services. Social safety nets would be overwhelmed by newly jobless families. Even a brief closure could push unemployment up by 30 percentage points in some areas. The loss would shatter community identity, driving young people away and leaving towns hollowed out. Once thriving communities risk becoming ghost towns, defined by empty homes and shuttered businesses. The closure of a single plant could unravel the fabric of entire regions. The US tariffs are a response to how other countries protect their auto industries. Germany imposes a 10% tariff on imports, while the US previously charged just 2.5%. Japan's market is protected by non-tariff barriers, making it tough for foreign brands to compete. Over 95% of cars sold in Japan are made by Japanese companies, while foreign brands have a huge share in the US. But the reality is, all automakers, foreign and domestic, rely on global supply chains. Even Ford and Chrysler source engines from Mexico and Italy. BMW's South Carolina plant imports most engines from Europe. Subaru brings engines from Japan. The new tariffs disrupt the entire industry, not just foreign brands. The global integration of auto manufacturing means everyone is affected. The standoff between the US government and Japanese automakers has cast a long shadow over the future of American auto workers and the towns that depend on them. Uncertainty hangs in the air as families and entire communities wait anxiously to see what comes next. For many, the auto industry is more than just a job. It's the backbone of their local economy, and a source of pride passed down through generations. If automakers decide to invest in building new US plants, the process will be slow and challenging. It could take years before new factories are up and running, and in the meantime, workers may face layoffs, reduced hours, or even unemployment. Consumers could also see higher car prices, making it harder for families to afford reliable transportation. On the other hand, if companies like Toyota and Honda are forced to close their existing US factories, the consequences would be swift and severe. Nearly 840,000 jobs could vanish almost overnight, triggering regional recessions and leaving once thriving towns hollowed out and struggling to survive. The shockwaves wouldn't stop at America's borders. Japan's economy, deeply tied to its automakers, could be pushed into recession as well, affecting workers and businesses across the Pacific. This crisis reveals just how interconnected and fragile modern manufacturing has become. Global supply chains, built over decades, can't simply be rebuilt overnight. Every part, every shipment, and every worker is part of a vast, intricate system. Finding a solution will require new levels of cooperation and trust between government leaders and industry executives. Only by working together can they hope to protect jobs, stabilize communities, and ensure a future for American manufacturing. The ultimate goal is clear: to strengthen U.S. manufacturing, create new opportunities, and preserve the systems that already support millions of American families. For hundreds of thousands of American workers, the decisions made today will shape not only their own lives, but also the future of their children and their communities for generations to come. The stakes have never been higher. The choices ahead will determine the fate of American industry and the heart of countless towns across the nation.